Oscar Piastri wins the Miami Grand Prix, a good Miami Grand Prix, amidst absolute chaos at Ferrari. This is Shifting Happens. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shifting Happens. My name is BaxtyB. I'm delighted to say that I am joined by Marshall, and working diligently, as always, in the background, we have our incredible producer, Fly. Marshall, it's just the two of us just for now. Your thoughts on the Miami Grand Prix? It was a good one for once.
I mean, not bad. I mean, as far as street races in the year 2025 go Leafs go, by the way. Second round today. I got representing.
Yeah.
We're up against Fly's team, so we're
have we got a Shifting Happens derby on our hands here?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was a good race. It was the best you can make a one-stopper that doesn't actually rain.
Yeah. All this rain they were talking about just never arrived. It was crazy.
I mean, it wasn't going to, if you had followed the forecast, AccuWeather's pretty darn good, and they had predicted 10% chance as of when the race started of it hitting during the race. But everybody, I find they tend to egg it on. It's as long as there's ever been Formula One, there's always been the enticing prospect of rain spicing things up, and any way that they can play that up, they will. It also helps when you want to throw the dummy and your name is Esteban Ocon. The first thing your Haas crew's going to want to do is say that they're expecting rain in 30 minutes just to throw off all the teams and make them think that you're seeing something that they're not. So it's all just gamesmanship, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it the way he described it to us once? Rain blue balls, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Formula One.
Definitely a case of that yesterday for sure. However, the main headline results, sprint race was won by Lando Norris. He got lucky with a safety car in Miami. That's never happened before, and he was joined on the podium by Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton. Had a great strategy. But the main Grand Prix, this is what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about Oscar Piastri winning again, third time in a row. The only person who got that right in the Shifting Happens predictions was none other than Fly. So congratulations to him. Everyone else was wrong. I don't think I've got a single one right yet. I've got to rectify that for Imola. He was joined on the podium by Lando Norris in a McLaren 1-2. And George Russell in third place. Definitely a big beneficiary of a virtual safety car, but did a very good job to keep Max Verstappen away from him in that last stint. Marshall, the question is very simple, and I know we've discussed this before, but I think it's more prevalent now. Is Oscar Piastri the World Championship favourite?
Yes, I think so. I think he's the favourite. Will he win it? We'll see, but Lando's got to up his game.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think he is the favourite. I thought he was the favourite post-Saudi, but this was just a rubber stamp on it, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the key difference with both of them was the way in which they raced Max. Max, brilliant pole position on Saturday. Ultimately, it counted for nothing because he didn't even podium. Got a bit unlucky with the virtual safety car, but that's Formula One. And he made a couple of mistakes, which is uncharacteristic for Max. But when you're under pressure, that's what's going to happen. But before I carry on with this, congratulations on the birth of your child, Max, from everyone here at Shifting Happens. But yeah, the way Oscar just he kind of dummied him a couple of times, made him think he might go for it, and then didn't. But then when he made his move, it was decisive. Forced Max into the mistake into turn one. He scampered off into the distance. Whereas Lando, he was always just nibbling away, and it didn't quite work. Now, I'm not going to criticise Lando for turn two, because when Max locks up like that, you have to go for the gap. I mean, you can't not. Yeah, if he doesn't go for it, he was right when he said, if I don't go for it, I get criticised. When I do go for it, I get criticised, because any one of those 19 drivers does exactly what he does. The question is who takes the contact into turn 2 and who doesn't. But in that second battle, when he's trying to get past him, yes, okay, Max had more data to deal with. Like, Max knew where the McLaren would be strong, having had Oscar following him, so it would be harder for Lando. But at the same time, he was just nibbling away, never looked like overtaking until much later on, by which point Oscar's up the road and the race is gone. Yeah, we'll talk about the turn 2 incident in a moment, but it's that point of difference for me, Marshall, that is why I think Oscar is more likely to win the championship this year than Lando.
I mean, I would agree with you. I think that Lando has more pace on a consistent basis than Oscar, just in that outright getting the most speed out of that McLaren and the consistent race pace. But as we know, this is a track position formula, that the being in the lead is such an advantage that even when you're as slow as a Red Bull, you can hold off a McLaren. And this is, I give Max a lot of credit for being able to hold up the McLarens for as long as he did, and Lando obviously for longer than he held off Oscar. But this
It was
Red
about
Bull
the
is,
same. It was about maybe 1 lap difference, but it was about the same.
yeah. And I mean, the thing with the lap 1 incident is that pace differential would have meant that if, like, I don't agree with you that Lando had to put his car there. I think if you just tuck in behind and get him later, and you don't fall behind and have to pass 3 other cars to get back up to Max, um, he would have been right there with Oscar. Like, Oscar wouldn't have got as far up the road. But I mean, he didn't need to do that on lap 1, given the superiority of his car, in my opinion.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, is what I would say to that. It is, yeah. That, and as I said, I think you ask any one of those other 19 drivers, including Max, do you put your car there, having seen your rival lock up into turn 1 or coming out of turn 1? Every single one of them said, yeah, we're going for it. Yeah. And I think, and this kind of leads us into our next discussion point of Lando versus Max, because we've seen this a few times now where the two of them, they get their elbows out, and Max is often the beneficiary of it because he races smarter than Lando. I don't think that's an unfair criticism. But I feel like the thing for me with the turn 2 incident is, yes, we've got these regulations which state if you're going around the outside of the corner, you need to be suitably enough ahead to be entitled to racing room, which he wasn't. So by the letter of the law, the stewards were right not to penalise Max. But my contention is that if Lando had to take avoiding action because Max veered across the track, if you watch Kimi Antonelli's on board, you very clearly see Max move across to block Lando and to stop him from getting to the corner, essentially forcing him off, in my view. Yes, okay, Max is entitled to the corner. That's fine. But when somebody has to take avoiding action to prevent an incident, I feel that kind of negates those rules personally. But these are the rules of engagements that the drivers signed up for. So, it's tricky. You're muted, by the way. Oh, still muted, Marshall.
Interesting. All right, there we go.
There we go.
Technical issues. Yeah, I do think it's a little bit less clear cut than that, because you shouldn't be putting your car in a position to be forced off. It's kind of like asking for it when you are always the one putting your car at the place where Verstappen can just force you off under the rules legally. Like, you have to be smarter, and we saw Piastri doesn't fall for those games as much. Like, he doesn't put his car in a place where Max is able to just force him off the road and not have any consequences for it. And you have to be more careful in that situation when going up against Max Verstappen to not give him that option. Like, a lot of times I just find that Lando gives Max that option when he doesn't
100%
need to.
agree. Yes.
He doesn't need to, especially when you know that, he put in a brilliant pole lap, but that your race pace is so much better than the Red Bull. And we had a sprint this weekend, so there was no fear, I don't think, of Max winning this race. Like, even if he got the lead off the first corner, like, he was not going to be winning this race. So you don't need to put it all on the line on lap one. You need a little bit of discretion in order to win the championship. And like, Lando's lucky that it didn't cost him, second place, or he didn't get any damage, or he didn't tangle with anyone else coming back on. But, it didn't end up costing him in the end much more than, the one place and the 7 points. So, he lives to fight another day in the championship. For the amount of wins that Piastri has, the championship is still remarkably close.
That
For it,
ninth place in
yeah,
Australia is biting. I mean that was a similar situation to Lewis and Nico in 2014. Lewis had that DNF in the first race, and he was playing catch up all season long. So
yeah,
even when he got the lead in the championship, it was like he's only just a couple of points ahead, because Lando's consistency has been his strong point so far. He's been top 5 every single race. I think bar the sprint in China, where he had a bit of a stinky one, but that one mistake by Oscar is keeping the championship close right now. I think if he's got a podium in Australia, he's almost out of sight at this point. But
yeah, 12
definitely
points
interesting
make a
times
big
ahead.
difference.
It can do. It can do.
Yeah,
And I mean, we're going to be talking about 14 points when it comes to Ferrari. But do you think this is now going to be a 2-horse race between the two McLarens? Are we going to get a Lewis Nico style battle, or is Max still going to be a player, and George Russell perhaps as well, because George is still right in there at the moment?
operationally, I don't trust Red Bull at the moment. I think that they're making too many mistakes as a team,
Mm-hmm.
and the cracks are pretty apparent in terms of their ability to um, execute at the top level of everything they need to do to win the championships. Like, it's one thing to not have the pace, and that's one problem to solve. But say that Red Bull fixes their pace issues in, their next upgrade, or their next 2 upgrades, or the Spain. Everybody's putting hope that Spain is going to slow McLaren down. It doesn't look like it, but
No.
if you put all this together and say, like, all of a sudden Red Bull is back and they're, at least within shouting distance of McLaren, do you really trust that operationally they're the same as they were with, you know, Jonathan Wheatley and others who have left that organization, and that they're going to perform on race day to that same level? Because we have not seen it this year. Like, we have not seen the same like operationally proficient 2-second pit stop Red Bull. We've seen a very scruffy Red Bull. Like, even in
Yeah.
the sprint race, that was egregious, letting him go into the
Yeah.
path of Antonelli. That was
That was
just,
appalling. Yeah.
how
And
do you
and
let that happen?
and not Max's fault. Like that's an unforced error by Red Bull, and I know you're going to cover this a bit later, but that kind of felt to me like that led to the protest against George after the Grand Prix, to kind of make amends for that. Whereas I don't think Max cares, to be honest with you, about getting a podium over George Russell when his two main title rivals are both ahead of him anyway. But the one thing that frightened me yesterday with McLaren was the gap they had back to George. It was Mercedes level gap, 30 seconds up the road. I mean, this was the first time we've really seen them flex their muscles because they've had the opportunity to do it. And it was a very, very ominous sign, I think, for the rest of the season. I agree with you. Spain isn't going to do anything. Everyone seems to think Spain is going to be the silver bullet, but how many times have we seen the silver bullet never materialize? I think the only time I've seen a silver bullet happen was when they did those tweaked regs for between 2020 and 2021, when they basically cut the floor out and took the advantage away from the low rate cars, which then led to that season. But I don't think that was intended. I think it was just, we've got to do something. Oh, here we go. Right, let's talk. It's time now to talk. AJ's not here, but I've got plenty to say. I've already done a video on it today on over on my channel. Let's talk about Ferrari.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer every night.
What was going on with Ferrari? It just this was a mess on so many levels.
Do you want me to let Sainz pass too?
Actually, I think we're due a tea break now. So maybe everyone come back in 5 minutes. Jesus Christ.
We didn't even get a we are checking. Like, at least give us a we are checking.
It was a we'll get back to you. That's
Right.
what we got. Like, we'll get back to you.
The hold music is in Italian.
Yeah, exactly. Like a jazzed up version of the anthem or something like, oh, where's Jin Lab back when you need him? But it's just Formula One strategy 101. If you have a car on faster tyres, on fresher, faster tyres, you let him through. And yet somehow Lewis is having to sit there going, hello, can I go past, please? I have fresher tyres. They're dying in his dirty air. And that's exactly what happened. As Jensen Button put it on the Sky broadcast afterwards, he said Lewis shouldn't have had to ask. That was just so obvious that is what they needed to do. But they spent 4 laps farting around with it. And then his pace isn't as good because you've taken the edge off the mediums that he had. So therefore he couldn't just steam after Antonelli. And then all of a sudden, Charles is now in his DRS and going faster. And then they're like, well, maybe we should swap back. Let's have another committee meeting about it. Whilst Lewis and Charles are both getting irate on the radio going, what are you doing? But this is the kind of operational failure that I think Lewis is going to grab a hold of and go, this never happens again to either of us. You want to be a world championship winning team? This is what you need to do. It was ludicrous. And the thing that really got me angry wasn't what happened afterwards. It was Fred Vasseur saying, we executed it well, and we had the pace of the Mercedes and the Red Bull. What's he on, Marshall? What is he on? Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, first of all, can we just go back to Lewis? Like, I want to just say, I've saw a lot of like commentary and discussion about Lewis getting heated on the radio and talking about how like that's not what he should do or whatever. That was fully justified, and they deserved to be roasted. And I would almost say that, if you wanted a meeker, milder, more polite driver on the radio and talk about it at the debrief later, isn't that what Charles has been doing for the last 6 years? Like,
even he was pissed.
Like you've got to force Ferrari kicking and screaming to just cut this stuff. And I think a lot of people had a lot of hope that Fred Vasseur would be Like, I just don't understand. How do you not stand up in front of the media and say that was unacceptable and it won't happen again?
But he said, we did it the Ferrari way. Well, the Ferrari way hasn't worked for nearly 20 years, so maybe you need to change it.
Like, that should have been extremely clear that there was a gap. And like, if you're sitting there saying, oh, well, we're just, doing it, execute, what did he say? We executed it well. No, you didn't. You executed it extremely poorly at just about every point of the discussion, to the point where, debatably, you cost your driver their fresh tires. Like, you gave him an advantage by pitting him later, and then negated that advantage by your own stupid decisions. So why did you even do it? Like, why
But
would you put your driver on a favorable strategy and then not let them execute that favorable strategy? Is it because they're afraid that Charles might get mad because he's not the number one, or is it just because they're in decision paralysis?
So Lewis said this in his interview with Sky. He said, "Oh, it was like this with Mercedes last year. They don't want to upset either driver." But I don't think Charles would have been upset. And
Yeah.
Lewis clearly felt like he was owed one from China, which he is, because Lewis was the one who said, "Let Charles pass, he's faster than me." And he instigated the switch in China between the two of them. And also, Lewis was like, "I'm losing time here. 4 laps doesn't sound like a lot. In Formula One, it's an eternity." And here are the two things that really annoyed me in the moment. You asked to switch the cars back, but you didn't tell Lewis until a lap later. How to compound a mistake? I mean, really?
Well, that sounds like great execution to me.
Wait, oh, Lewis is ignoring team orders. No, they haven't told him about the switch yet. I mean, you dumb idiots. And
Everything about this was just poorly managed, and for their manager, who's supposed to be like this breath of fresh air that was like the anti-Bonato in just about every way, to stand up there and basically turn into Bonato, says that there's something in the air there that they are not allowed to criticize or to speak about problems externally. And I cannot wait until Lewis loses his shit on somebody in that team in public, because it needs to happen. And it will happen. And I don't know if it'll be Ricky or it'll be somebody else. Like, but this
Yeah.
is this. If Fred Vasseur is not going to say it, Lewis will. Like, he will.
Oh, absolutely. Lewis, I mean, he hinted at it in his interview when he said they don't want to upset either driver. Yeah, it's just ludicrous. Yeah, they've already pissed away this championship. Let's be honest here. They ain't winning a championship this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
God, no.
no. Like, I said, why did you change 99% of your car? Lewis has literally gone from the same Mercedes with a new concept, learning the new concept, and all the teething problems that come with that, to Ferrari doing the exact same thing. He's probably thought, why did I move? Like, oh, he's being treated right, is he? Because that strategy was bozo. And like Lewis in the sprint showed to Ferrari, if you give me a preferable strategy, I will execute. I can still execute. Brilliant drive after he put those soft tires, the slick tires on. Incredible. And so they should have then had the trust in him to go, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, like, okay, you can go past and chase after Antonelli and go get P6. And this is P6 we're talking about. They were 57 seconds off the lead. And this is a team that lost the Constructors' Championship by 14 last year. Literally, Sergio Perez taking out Carlos Sainz cost Ferrari the Constructors' Championship. And they have gone backwards. Like, I've not been a Ferrari fan. I'm only supporting Ferrari this year because Lewis has got his arse in one of the cars. And sweet Jesus, I don't know how AJ's been able to do it all these years. I'm done after 6 races. I'm just like, no, please, why? You can make an opera out of this. You can make an opera out of this. Jesus Christ, it'll be a Rossini farce, but a la Barber of Seville. Oh my god. Anyway, lest we spend the entire time dumping on Ferrari from a great height, it's time now to make a visit to Marshall's Post.
Well, thank you, BaxtyB. Take over from here on a couple of topics from this weekend from volunteer and sort of longtime participant in racing in Formula One, and some of the things that have been said and done and sort of debated this weekend. And the first thing I'm going to say is the sprint. We got a pretty chaotic sprint this weekend, but it was not a very good sprint. Like, chaotic doesn't equal good in a lot of ways. And I think that one thing that I found quite disappointing is that they red flagged after 2 pace laps, taking the total distance down 3 laps when you consider another pace lap, and taking it from 19 to 16 laps and not racing in the rain on the different strategies. I was really looking forward to people at the back. Like, I think Science was on the full wets, and it would have taken a while to dry out. So then if it had dried out closer to the end, you would have seen a variance in strategy, people burning up their inters. It would have been interesting in a non sort of lottery way that it kind of became. I mean, but unfortunately, with these cars, as people have pointed out, like, we don't run in the rain anymore. Not in the real rain. The only track condition that Formula One seems to be willing to allow us to run in now is when it's like wet but drying, and drying quickly, usually. But I really miss rain races because I think that they threw up surprise results from time to time, and that they were kind of the ultimate test of driver skill. And the things that we remember sort of in the pantheon of Formula One legends are Senna at Estoril taking his first win, or Hamilton dominating at Silverstone, or Schumacher winning by a lap at Spain. You know, those are the legendary sort of moments where the greatest drivers ever separated themselves and showed their true class over their equipment. And people are really quick to use safety as a crutch or as an excuse to let F1 off the hook when they do things like this, because no one is like advocating here. I'm not sitting here saying we should race in the rain because I want drivers to get hurt. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. No one is advocating for increased risk. But the fact is, every other series that races on road courses, including motorbikes and, IndyCar, WEC, Formula E, they can run in the level of rain that we had at the Miami Sprint. And if they can't, then they actually make safety innovations or compromises or make rule adaptations to make it happen. So all this stuff about, oh, the cars are too wide, the tires are too big, the Pirellis suck, there's too much spray. Like, these things are all excuses that have solutions if there was a will to do it. And I think you don't need to look any further than IndyCar when they instituted the aero screen and they realized, oh, we can't run in the rain, because they couldn't see a thing because they would fog up and the rain spray on the curved screen. It was just, they were driving completely blind. But they figured out, and they worked with Red Bull Technologies, who developed the screen, and they worked with their partners to develop a coating that they can put on the aero screen that dissipates the water and improves visibility. And they worked on like vents and things to make sure that they didn't fog up, and they managed to get a working solution so that IndyCar is able to race in the rain. So I think that there's always things you can do, and people are so quick to just say, oh, well, you want drivers to die then. No, I don't want drivers to die. Obviously, I'm a marshal. I stand out there on the corner trying to make sure that they're safe. That's what we're doing here. And but motor racing is dangerous, and bad things can happen at any time in any condition. You can have a bad accident on a sunny, clear day that has horrible consequences. And we can force, we can try and mitigate and make sure that if there's anything obvious, we can, try and do whatever we can. But you can't solve for every single thing that could possibly go wrong. And if your answer is just don't race, then you've lost the plot. You've lost the reason that we do this if you just say, well, it's too risky, let's not race. Because motorsport is inherently dangerous. So it just depends on where you draw that arbitrary line to say what's too dangerous. And then you're just saying, well, you know what? They could crash at any time and hurt themselves. So let's just cancel the race. Like, let's make rain racing safer. Let's work on solutions, but just not running in the rain is so unfortunate because I used to look forward to wet races, and now I'm just like, crap, we got 2 hours of red flag, and then, we might get a race in today if it's really wet. Used to be that you would tune into the coverage and you would see the wet track and you'd just be like, yes. Now you're just, you know, waiting for them to actually give the go, and it's very, very annoying. And there's lots they can do to fix it, and I'm not denying any of the problem with this generation of the cars, but let's not let F1 off the hook by just saying, oh, it's too dangerous, so they're right. Like, no, they're not right. They designed a car that can't race in the rain. So now you're calling yourself the pinnacle of motorsport, but you can't do that thing that every other form of racing does because you built a car that can't handle it. Well, some pinnacle of motorsport you are. Don't know how you feel about that one, BaxtyB, but it's
No, I agree with you. It was a joke, wasn't it? Like, I mean, one of the greatest. We talk about all these great wet weather drives. And I mean, you look at Verstappen in Brazil last year. You think of Lewis in Silverstone, Lewis in Fuji that never gets spoken about, and all of Ayrton's great drives as well. And yet they've somehow designed. Pirelli have got wet tires that don't work,
yeah.
and you've got these guards that have tried to reduce the spray, doesn't work, and so we can't go racing in heavy rain, and it's a shame. And it's a skill
And
that,
it's not even heavy rain. It wasn't raining. It
well,
was like
yeah,
it was just a wet track.
yeah.
It was, yeah,
I mean, look, I
bizarre.
get it. The drivers need to be able to see, like, and if they can't see, then I can understand that decision. But we've just got to do better as a sport.
Yeah.
Whilst I have you in martial mode, I do also want to get your views on the Red Bull protest on
Oh,
George
yes.
Russell,
And I'm going to tie
because
these two in because
yeah,
I think that a lot of the things are similar here in terms of this protest was ridiculous, like absolutely frivolous. George lifted. Like, I don't know what more you want, but as a marshal, I don't need the fans to think about me. Like, that's the last thing on earth we want. Like, we just want to make sure that the racing happens and we take care of our safety, we follow our procedures, we have our manuals. We're good. We take care of it. You don't need to worry about us. What you can do to support us is if you see people being idiots online, you can, set them straight, or you can say, this is the way the rules work, or you can back us up. But you don't need to speak to us on safety because that's what we do. It's like trying to explain to someone who's a race car driver about like wheel to wheel racing. It's like, just chill, like we know what we're doing. We have the experience, the training, and we know the risks that we're accepting. So I've seen a lot of concern, and actually, BaxtyB, you pointed out some people online that were saying some things about like, oh, won't somebody please think of the marshals? And it's like, we know what a yellow flag means. It's not covering our butts. It's telling them that there's something. We're not taking it as cover. We're not going to run out on the track because there's a yellow flag. And we're certainly not going to run out of flag run out on a single waved yellow flag when you're on the straight where that incident was. And, I think a lot of this has actually led to our role being depleted over the years, that we actually don't do as much as we used to do. And that in turn lowers our numbers and actually makes it more dangerous because you have more people with less to do. You have fewer people that are responding to live incidents. So you got more people on the stand. You've got less distribution of marshals around the track because they're all at the open areas. So you're just sort of reduced, or your role is being minimized compared to what it used to be. And again, like, we don't want to be noticed. We kind of pride ourselves generally on being racetrack ninjas. You, you don't see us. We just sort of do our thing and then get out of the way. So just keep in mind that, like, the yellow flag is a warning and it's information, but it's not cover for us. It's not protecting us. We're still protecting ourselves. The cars are going by at 320 kilometers an hour. If they're going by at 301, they're still just as dangerous. And I don't think it's realistic for Red Bull to expect somebody to brake on a straight to respect a flag. Lifting is perfectly sufficient and indicates to race control that George saw the flag and reacted to it, which is all you want. You just want them to know it's there. They don't need to, like, slam on the brakes, because that creates a dangerous situation, right? If he sees that state car sitting there and he goes by it safely, then he obeyed the yellow flag. There's no question about it. Like, this is all a bunch of nothing. And I find it funny coming from Red Bull, who were openly criticizing marshals at Qatar a few years ago. So it's like, you know, take it with a pinch of salt, right? And I just want to tie this back to the rain issue and to the yellow flag issue, is that, you know this is not this is not a call out of anyone in particular, but I just think that we accept the risk when we go out and stand on the track, and they accept the risk to be in that car. And we can all work together to mitigate those risks, but let's not, like, create situations where we're trying to make safety arguments to make um, competitive advantage. So I think people are very quick to trust the drivers and the teams when they shouldn't be. You have to take what they're saying publicly with a lot more cynicism when they invoke safety, whether that's saying there's too much spray to race. You'll find that the guys in the lead really think there's not too much spray, or the guys who are on wet tires magically think that all of a sudden it's great to race because they know they made the right tire choice. Where the guys who are stuck out there on the wrong tire are like, "Oh my God, there's too much spray. I can't see a thing." So if they cry wolf on that, you can't just trust them, because they will always just say whatever advantages them in that situation. And as bad as the drivers are, I think out of the car, they're pretty honest. The team bosses are never honest because they're always switched on to the competitive advantage, and they're always saying these things that they hedge under a guise of safety, but it's actually just trying to gain a competitive advantage. And people need to view the sport with the necessary cynicism that says that these people are actually not as concerned about safety as they may have you believe, if they think that that argument might win them a position. And this whole Red Bull thing just smacks of that. Clearly, they're just trying to gain a position by making a safety argument, and we have to, like, be a little bit more careful in how we interpret what the drivers and teams are saying when it advantages them in a particular way, because it's the boy who cried wolf, right? Like, if they keep doing this, then you never know, like, maybe someday it'll be a real issue, and that's when you get all the drivers together and they make a stand like they have in the past. But if it's just in the moment, this is why they send the safety car out, because that's a neutral person who can report back the actual track condition rather than just listening to what all the drivers are saying and saying, oh my God, they can't see, because the camera does not reflect what they actually can and can't see. The camera is very bad at illustrating what the human eye sees. Like if you've ever seen a helmet cam, it just looks like a shaking, blurry mess. It's like, that's not what it actually looks like to these drivers. They're very in tune with, the environment and adjusted to it. So you can't just say, oh, look how bad it looks on the camera, because if you ever look back to an old race from year 2000 or in the rain, you couldn't see a damn thing, but they seemed to be able to find where they were going. So it's different than just looking at it from the outside, and people need to be a little bit more discerning as to where this feedback is coming from and who it advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought the Red Bull protest was petty bitch territory again. You know, I remember Max complained about it, and okay, he didn't slow down as much as Max did, but he still slowed. And yes, there's a little bit of ambiguous wording in the judgment, but then they kind of explain it anyway. It's like, well, he did pick up speed again, but that's because he was in a fast part of the circuit. So we're kind of bringing that into account. It's just like, and also, this was the Gabby Bortoletto VSC. He was already off the track anyway. I mean, I don't know how much that plays into it, but I'm not a marshal, but yeah, he was already off the track.
It was before the VSC got called. It was like he was parked off track, but they hadn't gone VSC yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just it's a complete nothing burger from Red Bull. It's
complete.
What Red Bull actually need to do is to take the advice of their own team principal and change your fucking car, rather than doing your usual and making yourself the victims. This is the second race in a row where Red Bull have made themselves the victim of some grand injustice and crusaders of safety. It's like, no, get out of here. You're doing it to keep Max, and you're doing it to try and cover up your own failures, because once again, you got your ass handed to you. Pathetic. As we come round our final few laps here of this particular podcast, some potential off-track news happening in the driver market. It's been reported today and by the BBC, which is often the biggest indicator that it is going to happen, is that it is looking likely that the inevitable Jack Doohan, Franco Colapinto switch is now happening. It's believed that Jack was informed after the race yesterday that he was done with Alpine and that Franco would be coming in for Imola in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, that there was speculation earlier on in the week when a major Franco Colapinto sponsor was on Argentinian TV. He was asked, he said, I don't know, and then was overheard saying in Imola. Alpine did play it down, but unfortunately for Jack, it looks like his last F1 race is ending in a Turn 1 exit after a collision with Liam Lawson, which there was not really anything he could do with it. It was just a lap 1 incident that happens. It's Formula 1, but and also apparently his outburst after sprint quali apparently didn't impress the management. He was very annoyed at the situation that went down there, even though it was partly his fault for overdriving his car when he came out the garage. But yeah, it is what it is. I feel for Jack because I think he's a good driver, and I don't think he's been that bad. I don't know how you feel, Marshall, but
he's fine. I don't think Colapinto will go great in that car because it's a bad car. Like, it's what's Gasly done with it, right? He's impressed a couple of times, but most of the time he's in the back of the midfield. Like, it's a bad car, and you can. It's like whether you have Jack Doohan in the car or you have Franco Colapinto is not going to make any difference to your championship position at the end of the year. It's not, because your car.
I completely agree.
It's not going to make any difference, but what it will do is it will bring in the Argentinian sponsors. So this was always an advantage that Colapinto had, where I don't think Doohan's bringing any money to the team.
So he's apparently got a 10 million euro sponsor, which nobody knows that much about.
Okay.
I looked into because I got into it with somebody. Somebody was like, "Oh, he's got all this money that his dad is putting in." Obviously, his dad being Mick Doohan, one of the greatest MotoGP champions of all time. So I looked into it, and he's got this 10 million euro sponsor that Ralf Schumacher said. I mean, I know Ralph's not exactly the greatest arbiter of things, but he's got a sponsor that has given money to the team, but not much is known about it. Whereas we all can see Franco's impact on the team, on the race suits, and on the car, and everything else. So to me, this felt inevitable that this
Yep.
was going to happen. I don't think they really wanted Jack. It was just at the time when they signed him, he was the only driver available. And then literally as soon as Jack puts pen to paper, Franco comes in and impresses in his first few races, which links him with Red Bull, which then eventually gets him this drive at Alpine. But then after that speculation kind of started, he started crashing the car left, right, and centre. I think Franco's a good driver. I don't think he's this kind of special talent that his fans will make out to believe. He's a good driver. You will hope that he's learned a lot working in the Alpine system for the last few months. He's done some TPC testing alongside Paul Aaron, who I rate very highly and I hope gets a shot, but I think it's unlikely. But yeah, I just feel sorry for Jack because he's done so much work for that team as both part of the academy and has been credited with helping turn the team round with the simulator work that he did last year. And that was part of the reason he got the drive in the first place. But he was signed by the previous management, which Flavio wasn't in by that point. Oliver Oakes wasn't in by that point. And now they're getting the guy they really want in the car to satisfy his sponsors. Because quite rightly, Franco's sponsors will be knocking on the door going, I want to see some return on that investment there, Flavio. So,
I mean, this is the thing is like, yeah, he wasn't Flavio and Oliver Oak's guy. He never
yeah.
was. So they had already made that decision before changing the management. And it just goes back to Renault/Alpine and their management issues that have gone back to when they bought the team back from Lotus.
Yeah, in
Like
2016. Yeah.
it's basically been this like constant revolving door of management, and like it's not even the first time. Like I almost felt like when I was watching F1 TV and Jolyon Palmer was talking about like how hard it must be to drive that car knowing that the sword is over your head, and I'm like, gee, how would you know that, Jolyon? Do you
Yeah.
speak from experience on that one?
Yeah, I think he's more qualified than most to.
It's like, and obviously, like, I'm not saying that Jolyon was a great talent or anything, but when a team doesn't want you, they can make it very apparent in many ways. And if you want proof of what Flavio does when he's fallen out of favor with a driver, look no further than how Jarno Trulli left Renault in the year that he won his first and only Grand Prix in Monaco. Like,
Jenson Button as well suffered that fate. Yeah.
yeah, and Johnny Herbert, like just look at how Flavio operates when he decides when you're not his guy anymore.
Yeah.
Like he just makes that call and he makes your life miserable. And I bet you Jack won't have any good things to say about Formula One once he's finally, moved on with whatever's next in his career.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, like I don't think he will get another chance.
I'd like to see Cadillac pick him up, but I
just don't see him as being like the top level of talent available. I
no.
think that he'll get jumped by someone bigger and shinier and more impressive in Formula 2 or Formula 3, and that there won't be a path back. But I'm sure he'll still have a very good career in other forms of racing. But I will say that like Formula One is so cruel in terms of how it can treat you when you're on the hot seat. Because did you not like just, if there was going to be a first lap collision at Miami, it was going to be Doohan and Lawson.
Yeah.
Like just that's what's like, if there was ever anything that this sport was going to throw at throw at us, it's those two tangling on the first lap,
Yeah.
because it's like the two most embattled and hard luck guys. It almost like Formula One doesn't care about what's fair or what's deserved. It's like it kicks you when you're down, and it kicks you hard. And
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
like 2011 when Lewis and Massa just kept colliding with each other. It was just, they were like magnets, wasn't it? It was just like, oh, Lewis has had a crash. Oh, look, there's Felipe Massa again.
it's
Yeah.
just once it rains, it pours. And like,
Yeah.
I don't even think that Liam, like, yeah, he shouldn't have been there, but it was just one of those first lap accidents that happens sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, it could have been anyone, but it wasn't anyone. It was
No.
the two guys
Yeah.
on the hot seat. It
Yeah,
just,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
the way that it always tends to happen. It's like,
Yeah.
whenever someone is on the bubble of being dropped, it just, this stuff happens. Formula One is
Yeah.
weird that way.
It
Formula One
is. It
is
is.
really, you almost have to have a sense of just fate in determining, like, sometimes how these things go down, because there's no other way to say, like, Jack Doohan never had a chance. Like, this was never going any other way
No.
for him.
No.
Like, it was
The
never
the
going
only saving
any
grace
other
he
way for
got,
him.
the only saving grace he got was Liam getting dropped after 2 races, because it took pressure off him. Externally, internally, it was still there, obviously, but externally, nobody was talking about Jack after the first 2 races, because he hadn't done anything outrageous. But he also, everyone was just focusing on the bigger story, which was Liam and Yuki, and quite
Yep.
rightly. Couple of quick lines before we go. Audi have parted ways with a senior engine person I saw today. For those of you that are new to the channel, Marshall's skepticism about Audi is well known, so I thought he might enjoy seeing that there. But Cadillac did a big brand announcement, even though we already knew they were coming. It was rumored that their drivers were going to be announced. Certainly one of them was going to be announced. It's the one that I think most of us predicted in our Cadillac driver prediction video, which you can find if you subscribe to the channel and if you go click through our previous videos. But the driver lineup at the moment, Marshall, I'll just get a quick one from you on this, is apparently Checo and Zhou Guanyu.
Is this according to whom?
I've seen a few sources. I mean, Checo, we all know that's going to happen. Let's be honest here. It would be dumb not to take Checo, but Zhou, we're seeing a lot more of him, aren't we? I know he's the reserve driver at Ferrari this year, but he just keeps popping up, doesn't he? And you think that maybe they're laying the groundwork for him to go, and he'll take money. He will have big sponsorship.
But didn't he just get dropped by that same team?
He got dropped by Sauber, didn't he?
But
yeah,
it's
we're talking the new Cadillac here, not Audi.
Oh, not Audi. Okay,
yeah,
right. Yeah, I'm losing my mind here. I don't think that Joe is gonna get that seat. I think that's not gonna happen. I don't see why they would take him. They wouldn't, like. Do Cadillac even sell cars in China? They sell. I don't think they do.
Or they want to do it as a big FU to certain people that we will not get into in a Formula One podcast. But
yeah, I thought we were talking about Audi here for a minute because of my my irrational hatred of Audi. But I do think that, like, Cadillac will not finalize their driver lineup until, like, I doubt they've even made a decision on that second person.
Yeah,
I don't think that they would take Joe. It just doesn't make sense. They don't.
Though AJ would be proved right, because AJ did predict Joe to be in the seat. So
yeah, true.
So that would be good for him. That'll be. Look, does Joe deserve another shot? I don't think so. I thought he was fine at Sauber. Like, he never did anything outrageously bad, but he never did anything really good other than scored the point last year. He had one good drive last year. He brings a lot of money with him. Politically, it might be a little bit thorny, but would he be worthy of it? I think, considering some of the other options they have available to them, probably not. but money does talk. So
I doubt
yeah,
it. I just don't see it. I don't see the upside from their brand perspective. Because, like, if you're doing Checo, he's got your money covered. Like,
there's a comment from Slipstream Merchant right there. Cadillac will have Ferrari engines. That might be a clincher if he
That's
because
true.
he is. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
but you could also Slipstream Merchant. You could put one of their youth drivers in. Obviously, Ollie's already got the seat, but you've got Dino Bogdanovic in F2. I'm trying to think who else they've got. Off the top of my head, I can't. I don't think Arthur's part of the Young Driver Academy anymore.
So does Audi still have an opening for next year?
No, it would be Hulkenberg and Gabby, unless Gabby.
Isn't Gabby just on a 1 year?
I'd be very surprised if they didn't re-sign him. He's actually been pretty solid, I think. Yesterday was engine pop. I mean, there's not a lot he could do about that. So,
it was a bad race for Ferrari power units generally.
It was, yes, because Behrman had an engine failure as well. But yeah, I mean, it does look like the Colton Herta door is shutting, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it's going to happen now.
No,
because that train has disappeared somewhere and nobody seems to be talking about it.
Yep. I think it's because they can't rely on him having the super license points.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't put it on a maybe.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's doing fine in IndyCar, so why would you risk that? Security and stability for, the Piranha Club of Formula One. I mean,
yeah.
he doesn't necessarily I get the feeling like, we sometimes forget that these guys are people and that, they have their life and their career to deal with, and that Formula One is not the be all and end all to everyone like it is to the fan base that consumes it obsessively. And that, like we see from Jack Doohan, coming into Formula One and racing at the back of the midfield doesn't really do a lot for your stock. Like, it doesn't really help that next thing. Like, I was looking at, look at what happened to Grosjean. Now he's on TV again. Like, once you're done in Formula One, it doesn't guarantee you like a sports car career anymore.
Not everyone can be K-Mag.
No, and even he struggled a bit when he first came back to sports cars. Like, there's this racing is so professionalized now, and the disciplines are so, like, not everyone is Fernando Alonso and can just jump into a Cadillac sports car and win the Rolex. Like, this is a very, like, all of the different series now are so specialized and take a lot of time to perfect, and you can't just assume that someone who's a Formula One driver is going to have a career in sports cars. Like, whether your name's Latifi or Sargent or Grosjean or whatever, like, you're not guaranteed a career if somebody else is faster than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And these sports car guys are really, really, really good, and there's a
are.
lot of them that are faster than, like, some of the F1 guys. Like, a lot.
Jamie Chadwick's ripping up trees at the moment in European Le Mans. She's doing really, really well. Another comment from Slipstream Merchant. I really want to see Alex Palou in F1. That horse is bolted as well, isn't it? And that's not going to happen.
I mean, he's too busy dominating IndyCar.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, that we do have to accept that, there's a perfectly credible career path outside of Formula One. And going to Formula One is just as likely to screw that up as to improve it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And it's like, there's nothing that can screw your momentum up than doing a Sebastian Bourdais.
Yeah, that's a lesson from the past, absolutely. But that is the end of this episode of Shifting Happens. I'm sure the boys will be around to do a review of Barber at some point. Spoiler alert, Alex Palou one. Ha ha ha. I've watched Barber the last few years as well, so I'm disappointed to see that that didn't deliver. But if you've enjoyed this live episode of Shifting Happens, then please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. He has been Marshall. You can find him double waved yellow on Threads. You can find our producer Fly at Apex63 on both Twitter and Threads. And you can find me, BaxtyB, on Twitter and BaxtyB F1 on Threads and also on the YouTubes as well. All links are in the description below. But until next time, guys, stay safe and we shall speak to you all very, very soon.
And this